Hey guys, Miss Dalton here. This week's lesson, relative frequency tables and percent bar graphs. Okay, so let's go ahead and take some notes real quick. All right, so categorical data. Categorical data is a data set where their response is not a numeric value. Okay, examples of these would be favorite color, type of pet, favorite flavor, and so on. Things like that. Okay, a relative frequency table. A relative frequency table is a table that is a common way to display categorical data because it is easy to tally the responses. When the percent of each category is calculated, it is called a relative frequency table. And you're going to see our relative frequency table, you're going to see that part of it labeled as decimal, okay? All right, remember from a way long time ago that whenever we're calculating percents, we use this setup, part over whole equals percent over 100. And then our last thing that we're going to talk about is percent bar graphs. A percent bar graph displays categorical data based on the percentage or relative frequency, which would be decimal, which are the same thing. Remember, percents, decimals, and fractions are all related. It can be found by calculating the percent of each category and then representing each percent with a bar on a number line or on a bar graph. Okay, let me go ahead and write that in too, which is what we're going to look at, bar graph. Okay, so here we go. We're going to go through the relative frequency table first. And it says a survey is taken to determine the most common pet that students have. Complete the table below, okay? So the number of students that chose cats, actually, just kidding. The first thing we have to do is figure out how many total pets there were, okay? So you're going to take 15 plus 21 plus 5 plus 9, okay? Well, I know that 15 and 5 makes 20. 20 plus 21 is 41, and then 41 plus 9 is 50. Okay, so a total of 50 students were surveyed about what kind of pet they have, okay? So let's talk about fractions. Remember, fractions are going to be part over whole. So if 15 kids chose cats, that means that 15 out of 50 total chose cats. Now let's go ahead and simplify this. We're going to divide by 5, top and bottom. And we're going to get 3 over 10 as a simplified fraction, okay? And then remember, percent of students, remember percents are always out of 100, okay? Percents are always out of 100, okay? So if I've got 15 out of 50 that like cats or that have cats, how do I turn that 50 into 100? Okay, you're going to do times 2. If you are shouting it out to me right now, times 2. So 15 times 2 is going to be 30. So our percent is 30%. Okay, so 30%. Our simplified fraction is 3/10. And then our relative frequency, that's going to be our decimal, okay? And this one's easy. A lot of times it's easiest to go back to your fraction to write your decimal, or go back to your percent and move your decimal twice. Either way, this was one of the last things we learned before we went over to distance learning. So 3 over 10, you would say it as 3/10. So you would say 3/10 as a decimal, 0.3. Or if you have your percent, this is from a long time ago as well, if you have your percent, 30%, remember, take away the percent sign, replace it with a decimal and move it twice. And that would also give you 0.30 or 0.3, same thing, okay? All right, let's look at dogs. We've got 21 out of 50 that have dogs. I do not believe we can simplify that. So 21 over 50 is going to be that simplified fraction. Sorry about that. And then our percents, remember, percents are always out of 100. Always back to this. So 21 over 50, how do I turn that into 100? Or how do I turn 50 into 100? Times 2 times 2. And I'm going to get 42 on top. I wrote a little bit big on that one and 100 on bottom. So 42%, I'm writing too big, sorry. And then as a decimal, this is our simplified fraction, 21/50ths. Goodness gracious, 21/50ths. Okay, and then as a decimal, remember to take 0.42. Oh, sorry, just kidding. I just gave you the answer. That's funny. Okay, you're going to take the 42%. Remember, get rid of that percent sign, replace it with the decimal, and then move it twice to the left, and you're going to get 0.42 for your relative frequency or your decimal. All right. Hamsters, 5 kids out of 50. You can simplify that by dividing by 5, top and bottom, and you're going to get 1/10 as your simplified fraction. 1/10. How do I turn 10 into 100? Because percents are always out of 100. Times 10 on bottom and top. So you're going to get 10 out of 100, which would be 10%. And then your your decimal or your relative frequency is going to be 1/10 or 0 and 1/10 or 0.10, just like we did with the 30%. And then our last one is our fish. We have 9 out of 50 kids that chose fish or that have a fish. I don't believe you can simplify that, so that is our simplified fraction. To turn it into a percent, we've got 9/50. How do I turn that 50 into 100? Times 2 times 2, top and bottom. And that's going to give us 18/100, which means that's an 18%, because again, I cannot say this enough, and you're going to get tired of me saying it, percents are always out of 100. So when you've got a fraction that does not have 100 as a denominator, you've got to find a way to turn it into a denominator of 100 to get that percentage. And then just like we said earlier, you've got 18%. Cross out your percent sign, replace it with a decimal, and move it twice to the left, and you're going to get 0.18 for your decimal or for your relative frequency. Okay? All right, the last thing that we're going to do this week is we're going to talk about percent bar graphs. And this one's kind of easy. You just have to be able to read the chart carefully. And what I usually start off with is I usually look at my chart and I label everything so that I know, okay? Well, first of all, I read the chart and I look at what it's talking about, and then I label so that I know what I'm talking about when I'm answering the questions, okay? So this graph is talking about favorite new ice cream flavors, and your y-axis is your percent of customers, and then your x-axis is your flavors that are new, okay? And so let's look at Cherry Swirl. It goes past 40, but I'm going to go ahead and label this 50 right here in between. Okay, just in case I need that. It goes past 40, but not to 50, so I'm going to say that Cherry Swirl is 45%, because remember, it says percent of customers. Okay, we've got Raisin Delight. It does not go to 10. So it looks like it's between 0 and 10. So we're going to go 5% on that. Choco Nutty goes past the 20, but not to the 30s. So 25%. And Tasty Pecan goes exactly to 10%. And Marshmallow Madness, sounds delicious, would be 15%. Now, if we are showing a percent bar graph, what should all of these percents total up to? What do you think? Good job. If you said 100%, that should be correct. So let's double check our work here. We've got 45 plus 5. That's 50%, because we want to make sure we're talking about 100% of the customers. Okay. 50 plus 25 is 75. 75 plus 10 is 85. And I'm running out of room. 85 plus 15 is going to give us that 100%. So these totals up here are 100% of the customers, okay? And that means that if we're talking about, we'll talk about that in number 2, just kidding. Okay, so here are a couple questions that you can be asked about a percent bar graph. Number 1 says, what is the combined percentage of people who prefer Tasty Pecan and Raisin Delight? Combined means you're going to do what? Good job. Add is correct. Okay, so we're going to add Tasty Pecan and Raisin Delight. All right, well, the good thing is we have already labeled our graph, so this is going to be super easy. So Tasty Pecan is 10% plus Raisin Delight, which was 5%. So our total combined of those two flavors is going to be 15%. Bam. Okay. Number 2, if there are 100 people surveyed, how many more, okay, here's some keywords here. How many more people prefer Choco Nutty than Marshmallow Madness? Okay, how many more means we're going to be subtracting somewhere in this problem, okay? And again, since we labeled our graph, this is going to be super easy. How many more people prefer Choco Nutty to Marshmallow Madness? Okay, so Choco Nutty is 25% or 25 people, because if 100 people were surveyed and we have 100% of the people accounted for on this graph, then our percents are going to match our number of people. So 25 people that prefer Choco Nutty to 15 people that prefer Marshmallow Madness is going to be 10 people more or 10% more, okay? But this only works because we have 100 people and 100%. They both match, so they're both the same. And then last question that you could be asked is, what is the mode of the data and how can you tell? Remember, mode means what? Did you say it? Did you say most? Because if you did, you're awesome and you're amazing and you're correct. What is the mode of the data? That means which flavor appears the most or which flavor was voted on the most. And in this case, it would be Cherry Swirl. 1, because your graph is the tallest, okay? Or the bar is the tallest. It's the biggest one up there. And because the number is biggest, so 45%, or in this case, 45 people, is more than the rest of the other flavors that appear on this graph. All right, guys, short and sweet, 2 new topics. Have a great week. Please contact your teacher if you have any questions, and we'll see you later. Bye.